All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about a cosmic war of ideas today. Imagine this. On one side, you've got the beautiful, messy, unpredictable chaos of life itself. And on the other, the cold, unyielding precision of absolute mathematical logic. This isn't just a small disagreement, folks. It's a battle for the very soul of reality.
And this quote really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Replacing the poetry of existence with a skeletal reality. Wow, this isn't just about changing a few rules. We're talking about stripping away everything that makes life vibrant and messy and beautiful, leaving behind, well, just the bare, calculated bones. So I want you to really think about this as we go through this whole explainer. What if life itself was just a messy equation that needed to be solved? What if every feeling you have, every choice you make, every random, spontaneous moment, what if all of that wasn't seen as a good thing, but as a glitch, a variable that needed to be corrected and controlled? Okay, first section, organic whim versus control. The philosophical battlefield. To really get a grip on this world, we have to meet its architect. He's called the uncanny god, the nomad. And his philosophy? It's literally the blueprint for this entire reality. It all starts with him just completely rejecting the world as it was. So organic whim. The way the nomad frames this is it's wild. He looks at things like our individuality, our spontaneity, the stuff we'd call the spice of life, and he sees them as bugs in the system. Broken angles, mechanical errors. He sees them as flaws in the code that absolutely have to be patched and wiped out. And this slide, it just lays it all out. The two sides of his whole calculus. On one side, you have the organic world. He saw it as a messy equation, full of what he calls friction. And guess what? That friction is us. It's people. His goal, his master's blueprint, is to create a system of frictionless precision. A world where all of life is corrected into pure data that follows his rules, no questions asked. And listen, this wasn't just some philosophical debate. No, this was a total physical terraforming of reality itself. I mean, just look at the shift. You go from jagged, wild volcanic landscapes to perfect geometric monoliths. The raw, chaotic energy of the universe, the omega effect, gets filtered into a neat, tidy, programmable data stream. Even the air changes from what's described as the jagged breath of suffering to this constant, low-frequency hum of calculation. Everything changed. So the big question is, how do you actually enforce a philosophy this radical on an entire planet? Well, you build it into the very infrastructure. You literally engineer a sterile reality where logic is completely inescapable. The nomad's whole empire rests on four huge architectural marvels. You can think of them as one giant unified laboratory. Their job? To take the wild soul of the world and convert it into a controlled, programmable system. So let's break them down, one by one. First up, we have the calculus spires. Now, these aren't just big towers. They're colossal processors. Their function is to filter out all that chaotic energy from the universe. And get this, they literally scrub the sky clean until it's just a sterile mirror. And what does that mirror reflect? Nothing but the architect's own cold ambition. Just imagine looking up and seeing that. Okay, next are the avenues of necessity. And again, don't think of these as roads. They're described as vast conduits of liquid logic. They don't just guide where you go, they dictate it. But here's the really chilling part. Every single step you take is harvested. It's used as a stroke in some grander calculation. Your very movement becomes data. Now, how do you make sure everyone stays in line? That's where the observatories of the void come in. These are basically the all-seeing eyes of the system. We're talking total surveillance. They monitor every single atom, looking for any deviation, any flicker of desire that hasn't been approved. And if they find one, bam, it's recalculated, corrected, instantly. And then, at the very heart of this whole empire, you have the sanctum of the final proof. This is the central processor, the core of the machine. It's a place where the fundamental laws of physics, we're talking time and gravity, are just suspended, held in place by sheer mathematical will. It's the ultimate monument to this new world, one where poetry is dead, and all that's left is the cold, burning light of equation. So, You've got this incredible static architecture. It's a perfect system. But a system like this needs a mobile enforcer, right? If all this architecture is the prison, well, now it's time to meet the jailer. And here it is, the griffin. Now, the first thing you have to understand is that this is not a creature, not in any way we'd think of it. The lore calls it a prosthetic stature. It's a tool, a horrifying mashup of myth and machine built for one single purpose: to anchor the nomad's perfect logical order onto reality. A living monument of mathematical spite. Man, that phrase tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it? Apparently, it was born from some kind of demonic pact. The griffin is literally the physical embodiment of mathematical spite. So its very existence is an act of pure, calculated revenge against the messiness and chaos of life.
And here's what's so terrifying about the griffin. It doesn't just kill you. The texts say it steals destiny. It flies along those avenues of necessity and literally harvests the kinetic energy of despair. It takes human suffering and turns it into fuel for the system. Its whole job is to create what's called the numbness of the solved, a state where everything is so perfectly ordered that even hope itself is frozen solid by its wings of sapphire ice.
So, we've seen the architecture, this massive system. We've seen its terrifying enforcer. But what about the people? What is the actual human cost of living in a world of perfect order? What does it feel like to be inside this architecture of logic?
Well, the core principle is about as simple and brutal as it gets. In this society, to serve literally means to stop being a person. You are not an individual with hopes and dreams. You are a gear in the machine, a rounding error in a massive cosmic equation. That's it.
And of course, there's a clinical, cold, three-step process for this devaluation. Step 1. Your feelings, your passions are identified as unproductive, just sources of friction. Step 2, you're reduced to a simple variable. Your suffering, your entire life's energy is converted into a vector for their calculations. And finally, step 3, if there's anything left of you, your soul is shattered, leaving behind only manageable, silent fragments.
All right, for our last section, let's pull back the curtain on this whole terrifying construction. It's time to ask the biggest, most important question of all. Why? Why build a planetary fortress of perfect logic? Why go to all this trouble? What could possibly motivate someone to build a universe-sized prison designed specifically to erase passion, poetry, and the very idea of being an individual?
And the answer is actually kind of shocking. It all comes down to this quote. The spires, this entire reality, were only built because the nomad, this uncanny god, still feels like a grain of dust beneath a golden shepherd's heel. The whole thing is built on a foundation of profound, deep-seated insecurity.
And that, right there, is the ultimate irony of it all. This entire architecture of logic, this incredible display of cosmic power, it's not really about creating a perfect universe. It's a psychological defense mechanism. It's a desperate attempt to freeze the past, to hide his own perceived smallness from everyone, including himself.
So, in the end, the ultimate irony is this. For all its perfect logic, for all its cosmic scale, it's nothing more than a prison. A prison built to the exact dimensions of one's own fear. And that's just a chilling thought, isn't it? That sometimes the biggest, most imposing fortresses are built on the most fragile foundations of all.